dark. Red and blue views, truth in the middle. No script, just thought raw and a little civil. Every question's got layers, so we peel back facts. From the real to the surreal, we don't hold back. Voices collide where ideas ignite. You tuned in, now step into the fight. This is more than talk, this is thought that counts. Welcome to the feed where the signal mounts.
Okay, let's unpack this source you sent us. We're diving into a transcript from a YouTube live stream.
Right. This one's called "So I Became a Meme. Let's Talk About It." Hashtag open panel. It's from the OTW Live channel.
And what we've got here is, well, it's a transcript of a really dynamic, sort of free-flowing conversation.
Yeah, multiple people jumping on and off the stream. It's quite the ride.
It covers an incredibly wide range of topics, too, doesn't it? Everything from, like, intense media criticism.
Oh, yeah, and online drama within their, specific community.
To sprawling conspiracy theories, some really surprising bits about the animal kingdom.
Social commentary, and some very, very raw personal interactions as well. It's all in there.
Think of it maybe as stepping into a fast-moving, multi-lane highway of ideas and arguments, anecdotes.
But definitely. You never quite know what lane you'll be in next or what's coming up.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to guide you through this, well, pretty dense material.
We want to highlight the key themes, pull out some of the surprising details.
And try to understand the different perspectives being presented, even when they clash, which they definitely do, or get heated.
Absolutely. It's really about seeing what happens when all these disparate thoughts and personalities just collide, pretty much unfiltered, in a digital space.
Okay, so let's jump right into the opening then. The very beginning of this transcript, it just hits you with this really intense, almost spoken word style segment.
It does, yeah. It sets a really specific tone right off the bat.
What strikes me is this powerful declaration of being fundamentally different. You hear phrases like, out of this world.
Too real, too raw, too rare.
Exactly. It feels like they're positioning themselves as completely outside or maybe beyond the mainstream.
Yeah, it definitely establishes that sense of standing apart, presenting something, authentic and unfiltered.
In contrast to what they see as a manufactured reality.
Right, and the critique of mainstream media is just front and center there.
Absolutely. We hear things like fake faces, fake voices.
Plastic-eyed news clones.
And this idea that truth is being deliberately buried under manufactured dreams. It's strong stuff, not just skepticism.
No, it's a visceral rejection of traditional information sources.
Yeah.
They talk about facts being rebranded, information overload.
Leaving people feeling programmed and stranded. That's the phrase.
Yeah, it paints this picture of a controlled narrative. And the implication is that this space, this stream, is where you find something, well, genuine. It shows a deep distrust.
And there's also that really energetic, almost revolutionary call to action woven in there.
Burn the feed.
Yeah.
Smash the lens.
The declaration that a revolution won't be televised, but it's a raw stampede. Very anti-establishment.
It absolutely speaks to that theme of fighting back.
Yeah.
Fighting against perceived control and, well, what they see as programmed minds.
And it connects to an idea that comes up later, doesn't it? About being radically transparent.
Yeah, and an open book. They talk about playing life like a game of strategy, which is interesting.
But insisting on staying real, despite all that complexity. It's a fascinating tension, that strategy versus authenticity.
Definitely.
Okay, so they set the stage with this broad critique of the outside world mainstream info.
Right.
Now, let's transition from that high-level view to the specific ecosystem they actually inhabit and describe. This corner of online live streams.
The panelverse.
The panelverse, yeah, that's what they sometimes call it.
Right, and this is where the transcript really gets into the internal dynamics, the drama, the personal stuff, the relationships within this online community.
So the panelverse seems to be this specific kind of gathering space. Multiple creators or participants joining streams live.
That's the impression, yeah. Discussing whatever comes up. And within it, there are immediate mentions of other figures, other channels.
Right, people who are part of it or interact with it. They name other YouTubers, discuss alleged activities. Like Rose and Tommy.
Yeah, and LCJC and Flow State.
And this is where it gets, well, particularly intense, and frankly, a bit hard to follow if you're not already immersed in this specific niche.
Very much so. There are some serious accusations flying around, particularly against figures like flow state,
Accused of what exactly?
fraud, and scamming over thousands of dollars, according to the source material here. Pretty serious claims.
Wow, okay. And what's really revealing, you mentioned, is the emphasis placed on optics.
Yes, optics. How things look online, how they're perceived. That seems incredibly important in this space.
They use terms like cup-taking. What does that mean in this context?
Well, they use it to describe what they see as perceived alliances or people sort of shielding one another. It implies these online relationships are strategic, focused on managing appearance.
And that focus on optics and alliances, it leads to some incredibly heated and, frankly, disturbing accusations.
It does, as you said, specific mentions of pedoptics,
And being pedophile sympathizers.
directed very pointedly at one participant, Caucasian Sasquatch, specifically in relation to this flow state person.
These aren't just casual disagreements, then. These are serious public challenges within their own space.
Extremely serious. It really highlights the sort of intense, maybe even zero-sum nature of conflict in that environment.
It gets personal, combative, with direct challenges like, do you care about the scams thrown out there?
Yeah, sounds like a harsh digital landscape.
And there's even this concept brought up about like maintaining control by having dirt on people.
Sort of a form of mutually assured destruction, yeah.
Yeah.
They even compare the dynamics within this community to the CIA, which is quite a comparison.
Wow. It paints a picture of this micro-ecosystem governed by personal conflict, reputation management, power dynamics.
Where serious accusations can just become weapons, it suggests maybe a breakdown of traditional social norms or conflict resolution in these unfiltered live online interactions.
Okay, so moving beyond the internal drama of this panelverse,
Yeah.
the conversation often pivots, sometimes quite suddenly, to much bigger topics.
Oh, yeah. Systems of control, big tech, AI, broader global conspiracies. They go there.
Threads about the power of big tech definitely run through it. Mentions of specific companies. Microsoft, Oracle.
Yes, and a really strong assertion about Oracle. Like Oracle's everything.
Yeah.
Deeply embedded in systems they feel are controlling society.
And their perspective on AI is pretty striking, too.
Very. They seem to feel AI is far, far beyond what the public understands, already doing unfathomable things.
Which raises this crucial point for them about, who holds that technological power.
Exactly. The source even links global events like Trump's trip to the Middle East, Dubai specifically.
They link that to being some kind of tactical move related to AI.
Related to perceived advanced AI capabilities in that region, yeah. That's the connection they make.
And then there's the whole presentation of a coming New World Order.
Right. The theory discussed is that this NWO is being achieved by first tearing down and dividing everything.
Suggesting a period of chaos or conflict might come first.
That seems to be the idea presented, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And connecting this to the bigger picture they're drawing.
The discussion includes ideas about fusing capitalism, socialism, and communism.
Potentially, yeah. Possibly resulting in something like a social credit score system.
But crucially, in their view, the elites would somehow keep their capitalistic advantages, while everyone else is controlled.
That's the scenario they seem to outline. And they reference this notion of elites already preparing.
Right, the bunkers, specifically mentioning buying bunkers in places like New Zealand.
That specific detail is mentioned, yes. And the source also touches on the idea that MK Ultra programming is being ramped up.
MK Ultra, how do they connect that?
They link it directly to the current digital landscape and what they believe is a transition to power phase for these controlling forces. It ties their personal online experience to these bigger, darker theories.
Okay. Now, for perhaps the most abrupt and, frankly, bizarre shift in the whole conversation.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going.
A sudden, really expensive deep dive into the animal kingdom.
Right. It's jarring how they can pivot from global control theories and online drama straight into detailed animal facts.
It really highlights the unpredictable nature of this source. Maybe just the free association that happens in a live stream.
Could be. And the discussions about animals are surprisingly detailed and sometimes quite outlandish.
Let's start with the cats. There's a whole theory presented.
Oh, the cat theory.
Yeah.
Yes. That they literally want to take over the world.
Or that they've already domesticated humans and are basically living like gods among us.
And what's fascinating is how they try to back this up. They discuss toxoplasmosis.
The parasite carried by cats.
Exactly. They describe how it affects rodents, supposedly makes them run towards cats, not away.
Okay.
And then they speculate quite wildly about its potential psychological effects on humans, suggesting it might affect our empathetic system, even comparing it to Stockholm Syndrome.
Wow. Stockholm Syndrome with cats.
Basically, yeah. And they even link it back to history. Egyptian cat worship, comparing cats to the Sphinx. It's a really wild connection. Shows that kind of associated thinking.
Okay, moving from cats to larger predators. There's this extensive comparison of different dangerous animals around the world.
Yeah, like boars. Specifically mentioning these massive, dangerous ones they've heard about in Texas and Australia.
They differentiate between water buffalo and Northern Territory, Australia.
And a Cape buffalo in Africa. And compare danger levels of saltwater crocs and Nile crocs versus Florida alligators.
Noting how human interaction has supposedly made the gators less dangerous.
Apparently. They even reference the Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, anecdote as part of this comparison.
Hippos get mentioned too, described as mean.
And allegedly used by a drug dealer. Implicitly linking back to those Pablo Escobar stories, you assume.
Right. And the discussion on bears is quite detailed.
Oh, yeah. Comparing grizzly, Kodiak, and polar bears. Extensively. Size, strength, fighting style.
Fighting style.
They suggest grizzly or brown bears do jujitsu, their words, comparing habitat, hunting ability.
And specific, often grim anecdotes come up here too.
Like the grizzly man story. The tragic one about the man who lived among bears, reportedly overstayed his welcome one season and was eaten.
Yeah, that's dark. And there's another strange one about a grizzly-proof suit.
Yes, this almost unbelievable story that the suit itself supposedly worked, but the force crushed the person inside anyway. Who knows if that's true, but it's in the discussion.
They also share personal accounts, like seeing bears hunt or move.
And try to contrast different animals' builds using an analogy.
Yeah.
Like a pit bull versus a German shepherd, but for bears.
Grizzly versus polar bear fight debate, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And this whole section even includes these perceived regional dangers. Like, basically, don't go to North America or Northern Australia because the animals will get you.
It's such a stark contrast, isn't it? Grand theories of global control 1 minute.
And the next, granular warnings about wildlife based on, well, sometimes questionable information or anecdotes. It really highlights how perceived threats, whether systemic or natural, seem to occupy their minds.
Okay, let's try and bring it back to the human element again, as the conversation eventually does. Amidst all the drama, the conspiracy, the animal facts, there are these moments of reflection.
Yeah, on human behavior, connection, or disconnect.
The participants express a clear observation about a decline in the art of communication and conversation.
They link it directly to technology, the rise of digital interactions, even AI companions.
Which raises that important question, doesn't it? How is technology changing the fundamental way we interact?
They even make this provocative comparison. Modern digital communication, emojis, pictograms.
Comparing it to ancient hieroglyphics, suggesting it's a de-evolution in writing and communication skills.
That's the comparison they make, yeah. Quite something.
And they share personal anecdotes too, trying to talk to people offline and finding it hard.
Or observing parents just giving smartphones to babies, highlighting this perceived shift away from traditional face-to-face interaction, deep conversation.
The online panel space itself, this panelverse, is sometimes framed in pretty stark terms.
Like a digital group home or a battleverse, acknowledging that it's a place where these complex, often raw interactions and conflicts play out.
Maybe because people lack other outlets or
Yeah.
feel pushed online?
That could be part of it. And the transcript also includes some really explicit discussions about sex, gender dynamics.
Masculinity, femininity, mentions of relationship struggles, loneliness experienced by some participants.
It gets very personal and unfiltered at times,
Yeah.
showing that even with a focus on these grand external topics, deep personal issues are definitely present in that space too.
And finally, there's the mention of music. Music as a form of expression for this community.
Right, they talk about truth bomb music or conspiracy theory music.
An OTW song, Built a Monster, is cited as an example.
Yeah, an example of using creativity to respond to feeling pushed down or attacked. It shows how creative outlets become a way to process, express, maybe cope with the frustrations and ideas floating around.
And just to wrap things up, there's that very specific rule of engagement mentioned by OTW himself. It gives a fascinating, slightly intense insight into the unique dynamics of this particular digital space.
Oh yeah, that rule. It's quite unique. He highlights this social rule where if someone explicitly announces they're leaving the stream,
He feels compelled to react strongly.
very strongly, as he puts it, metaphorically, he feels the need to either beat them or chop their heads off before they leave.
Wow. That's intense.
It's a fascinating kind of aggressive glimpse into the unwritten social contracts and maybe the host's own reactions within this unpredictable environment. Like, don't telegraph your departure or face the consequences in the digital battleverse.
So what does this all mean then? We've taken this deep dive into just one source, this sprawling, unpredictable conversation from one corner of the internet.
Yeah, and we've seen how discussions can just weave wildly from these profound critiques of global media and power structures.
To intense personal disputes within a really small community.
Bizarre, lengthy digressions into animal facts.
And then poignant reflections on human connection and disconnect. It's all jumbled together.
It really shows us how these online spaces can become these unfiltered melting pots for every kind of thought, grievance, fascination imaginable.
It definitely raises questions, doesn't it, about where people turn for information when they distrust the mainstream.
What happens when community dynamics get fueled by conflict and this constant worry about optics?
How technology might genuinely be changing our ability to communicate.
And just what emerges when these disparate individuals, maybe united by feeling out of this world, collide in what they call a digital group home.
Okay, so here's a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider. In a world just saturated with information and these increasingly polarized online interactions, where do you look for truth or reality?
And maybe more importantly, how do you discern between what might be a genuine signal in the dark and just, well, just another manufactured noise?
Mic check, one voice, one spark. From the shadows to the bright, let's light the dark. Red and blue views, truth in the middle, no script, just thought raw and a little civil. Every question's got layers, so we peel back facts. From the real to the surreal.